So we are joined by my friend that I have not seen in so long, Sarah Ruth Bullock Hickner. We thank you so much for joining us today. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. We're in the marketing, sales, and service career cluster. And you just a great example of somebody that has done a great job of that after you change careers, and we'll get to that in a second. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Greg.
All right. So before we get into what all it is you do now and all your books you've written and everything, you're from Madison,
Yes.
uh, graduated from MRA, and went to the University of Louisville in the great state of Kentucky
Yeah.
with the dream of being a equine veterinarian. So take us through that process and how you kind of changed your path once you got into the training for that.
Well, there were a lot of path changes in the midst of that. I actually went to Mississippi College for 2 years, but I had really wanted to go to I wanted to go to Kentucky and ride racehorses was really the thing. And so, and I thought my whole life, I thought I'd be a horse vet. It was the smartest way to work with horses and make a living. So I was like on that path. I did biology at Mississippi College. Then when I went to U of L, I changed my major to business so I could get in-state tuition, a business degree that focused on the horse industry. And I was riding racehorses and working for vets because when you go to get into vet school, you have to have a lot of hours. And frankly, as I was working for all these vets, very few of them were happy. And that was a big indicator for me that maybe that wasn't what I wanted to do. These people were working with horses all day long, which is what I wanted, but they didn't get to spend time with their own horses. And they were just mostly grouchy. So I decided to look into other options when I graduated from college.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because so many kids, especially now that this is mainly ninth graders, they look and think they want to do things. And I think the best advice is like you did, work in the field in high school, find somebody to shadow, find a mentor where you can learn about the business. So you're not wasting valuable time and money in the field and then you're miserable.
Right. Right. Exactly.
All right. So you did change paths and talk about what you've done since then because you've had your hands in a lot, but
Yeah.
you really have done a whole lot, not only writing your books, but really helping small business owners brand themselves and market themselves.
Yeah, so there again, more path changes. When I graduated from college, I thought I'll give it a try as a professional horse person. Because that's really the dream, right? Like make a living just training horses all day. And my backup plan, I thought I'll give it 5 years. And if I don't have what it takes to really go to the top, then I'll just get my MBA. It's really funny to think back on these plans. So I was in the middle of that 5 years. And I was working professionally with horses and it was actually going pretty well. And at the time, I was actually managing a farm for who is now the governor of Virginia, which that's
Wow.
not on the radar now. Now it's really funny to be like, Mr. Glenn is the governor. But I used to work for Mr. Glenn and I managed his private farm and I was showing a lot and it was going really well, except that I started to look at, again, if you want to go to the top, I'm like, I don't want to be in the middle. I want to go to the top. If you want to go to the top in the horse world and be an Olympic level rider, at this time I'm married. If you want to go to that level, you basically have to forsake your family unless your family is into horses, which mine wasn't. So, you spend half your year in Europe, a quarter of your year in Florida, and a quarter of your year at home. And again, and I was not even sure if I like the way, like the amount that horses are on the road. I don't think it's good for their health and their brains and stuff. So again, I thought I really think I need to make a career change. And somewhere in the middle of this, I had started a direct sales business with Mary Kay. When I started this business, I thought this is just something I'll do for a few weeks. I'll get a really good discount. I'm a very passionate person. I'll be passionate for a month and then it'll fizzle. And that was 16 years ago, maybe
Wow.
17 at this point. So I really found my place in Mary Kay. And then for over 10 years, that was all I really did was I worked a Mary Kay business. I built a team. I taught other people to build businesses. I earned the use of cars, really grew that Mary Kay business and thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'm very spiritual person. I'm really plugged into my faith, and God called me to write this book. So then I had another pivot. I've kept my toe in with Mary Kay, but I pivoted to life as an author. And so now, like, this is my main book. It came out almost a year ago, Finding Gideon. So I've really been focused on Finding Gideon for a while. I am stepping back into Mary Kay now and getting back on target for a car this month, actually. But now I am an author. And through being an author, I started to see, again, holes where people really needed help. Through my Mary Kay business, I learned a lot about selling, about people skills. And when I was going to these book events, I noticed that we're, at Mississippi Book Festival, there's this long row of authors that are local, and they just sit there behind their tables with stacks of books frowning at everybody. And I thought, y'all need help. So now I am a coach and teaching people how to sell books from a table, because in-person sales as an author is one of the biggest ways to make money, one of the best ways in a day to just like bring it in. But if you sit behind a table staring at your phone, you're not going to do very well. So I coach people to sell books from a table as well.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. Look, you are preaching to the choir, because I always say in-person sales is the most important skill a person can have in any business. So even if you have no desire to ever write a book, if you can sell something, every company on this planet can find a job for you. And it's not something
Right.
you necessarily have to go to college for. If you can have those people skills, and and it's just, even selling yourself. I always say, learn to walk in a room and introduce yourself. Learn to have a good handshake. Learn to have a good resume. That's all selling yourself. Companies want people that can write, and they want people that can talk. Now, if you
Yeah.
have we're not discouraging people. If you want to go to college and get a marketing degree, that's great. You can get a great job in that as well. But if you can sell and you can talk, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, we have so many kids say, oh, I want to work for myself. That's great. And like you said, they may be a great writer. May have written a fantastic book, but if you can't sell it, you're not going to make any money.
Right. Exactly. And really, like, the key to the whole course is just learning to connect with people. If you can connect with someone and make them feel special, then you're pretty close to getting a sale right there. And so that's what the whole course is, just teaching you different techniques to connect with people. It's like the how to win friends and influence people. If you can just connect with people and make them feel important, that's sales right there.
Yeah, and I always, and also, we have kids that are interested in, trade education is making a huge comeback in Mississippi, where kids are going to the community colleges and learning the trade. But even if you're going to be a trade person, you got to be able to explain to a customer what you're doing. You got to be able to explain why your service is going to be better than the next person. You've got to be, if you're going to do somebody's hair, you better be able to show them ahead of time what you're going to do. If you're going to fix somebody's car, you better be able to tell them what's wrong with it and then fix it. So I can't stress enough these personal skills that you preach, because it is just so important to anybody's success in business.
It is. Now that you're talking about this, like the people who come and work on our heater and air conditioner, they change contracts, and it's like we've had the same people for years. We felt safe with those people. We liked those people. My husband had their phone numbers in his phone, and then it changes to someone new who doesn't talk to us, who comes in, gives us a side eye, does his job and leaves. And there's no trust factor, because he can't just have a conversation. And it's like the minute someone has a conversation, then there's trust, and then you want to bring them back. Like I'm the same hair girl for 15 years or more, and it's because it's our conversation. I know her, and it makes me loyal to her.
Yeah, and before you came on, one of the students made the comment like, "Man, how many people do you know?" And I'm like, "It's all about building your network. If you have people that you know and you have people that know you, it's amazing how you can find things. It's amazing how you can make a living." Now, look, here at Velma Jackson, we're a rural community. I get it. A lot of this community has, until the advances in technology, hasn't been able to be exposed to a lot of things. But there has never been a better time for young people to expose themselves and start building network now at 15, 16 years old.
Yes. And it really, when you're that age, it just looks like being friends with people, like, let's just be friends. I think that's a big part of it for me is, when I look at someone, I'm not like, oh, you should buy my book. I'm like, let's be friends. And I genuinely care. And people can tell that. So even now, it's like, Greg, you've always been friends with everybody. I remember growing up, and you're everyone's friend, and we haven't talked in 20 years, but I still feel like we're friends, even though like I just see you on Facebook. So I love seeing your Uber updates. They're so fun.
Well, I appreciate it, and and I always I always joke, everybody in high school, I've said I was the friends with everybody guy. And there's pros and cons to that, but when you are able to relate to anybody, you're able to sell to anybody, and you can make money from anybody as well. So, being able to be diverse not only in your relationships but in your business is extremely important because look, if you can sell, we just said it's a portable business. So if somebody is an author and they're able to sell that well, they may be able to get on in a company selling while they're selling their book. So sales skills and personal skills and speaking skills. And look, I can speak for every other teacher that's going to see this. And I don't like to speak for other people, but I know I can on this. Um, these kids get so mad when we make them present in front of the class. I'm comfortable speaking. I've spoken in front of 2,000 people before. I don't mind. I'll talk to anybody. And I understand there's a nervousness factor, and it's tough to get used to when you're not used to speaking. But being able to speak to a group, even a small group, is one of the most important skills a person can have as they go through high school, as they go through college, and as they go through business. Because the person with the best sales pitch is the one that wins the contract, not necessarily the one with the best product.
Right. It's true. It's all about making that connection. And if whether you're making it one-on-one or you're making it standing in front of 2,000 people, if you make that connection, it's a win. Like I've actually had the opportunity to public speak a few times for my book. And one of them, there were about 150 people in the room. I sold 100 books that day. It
Wow.
was insane. So it's like if you can learn how to connect with people, whether it's one-on-one or in a crowd. The last one, there were only like 10 people there, which seems kind of silly, but all 10 people bought a book. If you can really connect with people, then it pays. And the key to connecting is just being yourself, being your authentic self and letting people in. I think a lot of times people have this like force field around them. They don't want to be them. They're worried they're not good enough or something. I don't know what it is. They want to keep privacy. And I'm just like, look, it's all right here. There is no privacy in my life. Let's be friends. Just, let people in and be authentic, and they'll feel safer with you. When people feel safe, they want to know you.
Now, what are some of the skills and techniques that you kind of teach these authors when it comes to selling their book?
Uh, so there's several things, but the first one is really just connecting with people. It's learning to smile at someone and it's changing your thought process of, if someone does come by and they don't want to buy your book, instead of being mad or offended, it's like transitioning to, well, how can I help them find a book at this festival that is for them? And, so it's realizing, well, maybe she didn't buy my book because she doesn't like memoirs. Maybe she only reads mystery. And so it's learning to not take the rejection personally and just shifting it to, okay, so my book isn't for you. Let me help you find a book that is. Let me show you the mystery author right down the row. And so that's a huge mental shift for a lot of people. It's just like really being out there to help and find what meets someone's need. And if it's not your product, help them find the product that is theirs, because then they will come back to you. They will, if they meet someone who does love memoir, then they're going to be like, you've got to go see that Sarah girl. She's great. Then there's tools to connecting with people. And the thing is, we all at a book festival, if you like free bookmarks, go to a book festival. Every table has a free bookmark, right? But it's teaching you like what makes a bookmark or a postcard or a giveaway like that, what makes it memorable, what makes it less likely for someone to throw it in the trash, so that again, you're top of mind later if they didn't buy the book from you that day. And then it's words to draw people in, words to not word vomit, how to say enough but not too much. I had a book table next to a lady. We had to share a table in Louisville, and she would tell the entire plot to all four of her books. And I was like, oh, they don't need to buy it anymore. They know the whole thing. So, it's learning to say just enough to get them to say, oh, you know what? I think I would like to buy your book, but not so much that they're like, oh, I don't need to read it. Know it all. So
Yeah,
there's
and a technique that we were talking about before we got on as well is learning how to place things visually. If you're at a book fair and you're trying to sell to a certain type of audience, do some research and see how they like things presented. There's a reason when you go in the grocery store, the candy is right by the cash register.
Yes.
little things like that. And, the convenience of selling is such a big thing as well. If it's easy for somebody to buy it, they're a lot more likely to buy it.
Right.
And in my other classes, I always say, if people will buy it, you need to sell it. And if people will pay it, you need to charge it.
Mhm.
A lot of times it's simple mistakes like that. Now, before I get to the students' questions, and I got some good ones, we got to talk
Okay.
about Finding Gideon. So tell us about, you've written this book that's really taken off, got great Amazon reviews. So tell us about where that book came from and a little bit about the book.
All right. So when I made the transition from Mississippi College to U of L, I left huge scholarship money. Um, my family didn't really want me to do it. It was a big thing. And I loaded up my horse, who's on the cover. His name was Gideon. And he was the love of my life. And I adopted a dog. Her name's Sandy. And so it was the three of us, and we moved up to Louisville to chase this dream of riding racehorses. And all I knew was my academic advisor at University of Louisville, because it was summer, and one of the professors, and my roommate that I met on roommates.com. And I found a job, and I had spent about 2 weeks galloping, and I was in a really bad accident. A horse did a somersault down the track with me,
Hmm.
rolled
Ooh.
over me, kicked me in the face, like not on purpose. He's just flailing, it's four legs going everywhere. And I just happened to be in the path of one of them and kicked me in the face. And so it really like turned my life upside down. I mean, I'm up here by myself. I'm in the hospital. I don't have an advocate in the ER. My teeth were just like all messed up. And
Mm.
so then 2 weeks after that, just as I'm starting to like pick myself back up and think, okay, it's going to be fine. My horse, Gideon, who's the absolute love of my life, was stolen. It was
Mm.
like a movie. Like someone put him in a horse trailer and took him away. And so then, excuse me, so I'm up in Kentucky, and my face is busted. This dream that I left everything for just tried to kill me. My horse that I love more than anything is missing. And so it's about those 2 years of looking for my horse, of trying to chase this dream that like just I have so much fear in it. So it's about like grittiness, but being afraid at the same time, and also about my faith and just trying to really figure out, I grew up in church. Greg and I grew up in church together. And, this was not the warm and fuzzy God I learned about in Sunday school. I prayed for safety 30 seconds before that horse flipped down the track and kicked me in the face. And so really coming to terms with like, how do you trust a God who gives and takes away? And do I want to? Like it's a big faith journey as well. So that's Finding Gideon. It's warm and fuzzy, but also makes you cry and laugh. And there's a little bit of romance in there because I need romance in my books. So there is a little romance thread if you like romance in your books.
Awesome. Well, I do have some questions from the students. I get as many of these as I can. These are mainly ninth graders, but I like this first one, and that's a great segue from what you just talked about. This is
Uh-huh.
Rihanna Kelly, and she asked, "What was the hardest part of writing your book?"
Oh, Rihanna. There's a lot. I will say one really hard part is you don't make money when you're writing a book, and it's really time consuming, and there's no income from it. And so as a grown up, when you need to pay bills, that is hard. And then also it was the first time in my life when I learned to take criticism, not just take it, but wanted criticism. Like I wanted the story to be as excellent as possible. And so, I was told by my writing coach to rewrite it. I was told when I thought it was ready to go, she said, it's not ready. That one did not make me happy.
Wow.
I cried for like a week on that one. I was like, it's ready. And she was like, it is not ready. And so really learning to take criticism I'm so grateful for it, but it was really hard. I mean, there are a lot of tears going on.
Wow. Well, I think this is a good one too because you talked about your writing coach. This is Precious Blackman, one of our basketball players and track runners here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, when writing your book, what was your favorite book that inspired you and why?
That's a really good question. I think there's this book called Funny Side about a Kentucky Derby winning horse that was not expected to win the Derby. And he was owned by just really normal people, like a baker and a teacher. It was like 30 or 40 people had all gone in, pitched in like $1,000, got a cheap racehorse. And then this cheap racehorse goes on to win the Kentucky Derby, which is unheard of. And their book was just so authentic. and it was hilarious, but it was real. And so I'm just very inspired by anyone who can be funny, but also be raw and authentic. And so that was a really inspiring, like that. I love that book. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. I like this one. This is Derek Mitchell, and he asked, "Did you have any other names for your book while you were writing it?"
No, for a long time it was the book without a title because I could not come up with a title. It was really hard. I actually prayed over that a lot because there's nothing was coming to me. And one day I was having a conversation with a friend, and just mid-sentence, it was like Finding Gideon. That's it. And so it really only has ever had one title aside from the book that really needs a title.
That's awesome. This is Herbert Carmichael, and he asked, "What would you say is the biggest influence as far as an experience you've had on your career?"
That's a really good question. So I'm going to give you two. One of them,
Sure.
and this seems really cheesy, but Mary Kay Ash was a real woman, and she was incredible as a leader. She wrote lots of leadership books. Um, and she just has so much wisdom. And so she has always inspired me. She was a gritty woman who worked really hard. She really believed in helping others. She worked until she had a stroke and just physically couldn't anymore. And she was really inspiring to me. She's the first person that, when they say, if you could have dinner with anyone in heaven, who would it be? And I was always like, I don't know. Finally, I'm like, Mary Kay Ash. I would love to sit down with her, but I'm a little scared too, because she also was like, okay, you did a really good job on that, but what are you going to do now? And so, anyway, she's always been so inspiring. And then when I rode racehorses in Kentucky, I worked for a very top trainer. He's won the Kentucky Derby a few times. He's won the Breeders' Cup, which is actually even bigger. That's like the Super Bowl of horse racing. And when I worked for him, I was a little insecure. And he said, Sarah, you have a lot of horse in you. And he had improvements. He said, Sarah, you need to get stronger. Sarah, you need to ride like this. You need to do this. But he said, you have a lot of horse in you. And so whenever, as a horseman, that meant coming from one of the top horsemen in the world, that said a lot. And it's really encouraged me a lot in my horses, because I still ride and compete and train horses as
That's
well.
awesome. I've got a couple more. This is Mariah LaFleur, one of our volleyball players here, and she asked, "What is the most satisfying part of your career?"
I'm never satisfied. Oh, that's a hard one. Okay, no, the most satisfying part is when I get emails and messages. There, like 3 weeks ago, I'll go a month without hearing from anybody, but 3 weeks ago in 1 week, I got a Facebook message and 2 emails from random people who read my book, and it really encouraged them. Total strangers who found me and emailed me to tell me how impactful my book was. And
Oh,
those were the moments when I'm like, okay, this is why I'm still working to get this book in front of people.
wow, that's awesome. I got time for one more. This is Caden Williams, one of our football players here, one of our hopefully state champion powerlifters coming up. And he asked, "Did you ever feel like you made the wrong decision when you changed careers?"
No, that's a good question, but no. And I will say it's because I am very plugged in with my faith walk. And the only reason I changed careers is because I know God was like, this is what I want you to do right now. And so there are moments where I'm like, but I was making so much more money doing the other thing. And then God's like, but this is what I have you doing right now. And so anytime I start to question it, I swear I hear God say, patience, patience. And so, there are moments, but when you're really plugged in with your faith and you really trust your creator, you just learn. You learn to be like, you know what, if God put me here, then this is where I'm going to be. And I'm going to rock it as much as I can and really, do it, give it my all.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But before we go, a couple things. First of all, tell us where to find Finding Gideon and your other books.
All right, Finding Gideon and my other books are available on Amazon.com. If you search up Sarah Hickner on Amazon, you will find all of my books. Also Barnes and Noble, but you mostly have to go online. You can go harass every bookstore and ask them to order my book because it is available for them, but there has to be a demand for them to carry it.
Absolutely. But and again, and please give your wonderful family my best. You know, your
I
brothers are
will.
always great, and your parents are just great. So please give them my best. I'm really great folks. But before we go, you talk about the importance of selling and the personal relationships, and that can, whether you decide to go to college or not, those skills can just translate into so much success. So why
Mhm.
should these kids in ninth, 10th grade, once they're getting ready to move through high school and move into college and their next steps, why should they really focus on these personal selling skills?
Look, personal selling skills, because it's really about selling yourself. If you can sell yourself, then you can sell anything else. And as you go into college and things, y'all, there were times that I had grades changed because I could sell myself to my professors. I would say, I studied this hard. I don't understand how I got this grade. And because I was willing to go talk to them and respect them and sell be kind. And then they changed my grades, y'all. And I got scholarships and all kinds of stuff. And I think a lot of it was just because I was personable and I knew how to look someone in the eye and to be kind and to smile. And this will carry you through college. It will carry you through any career. If you can look someone in the eye and smile and make them feel important, you can get pretty much anywhere in life.
Yeah, making that first impression is just so important. Well, again, we thank you so much for taking some time for us on your trip home. So be safe going back to Virginia. And as always, it is such a pleasure. And it was great to finally see you again. Sarah Hickner,
Thank you, Greg.
marketing
Bye,
specialist. Thank you
everyone.
for taking some time for us today.
Thank you all.
All right, see you, buddy.
Bye.